coming to an extra special Micah moment today, and good to have you all here. Some of you have probably received a letter from our church's planned giving team with a little bit of information about the work they've been doing. Many months ago, a group of dedicated volunteers from First Church agreed to put together some thoughts and ideas about a conversation about everybody's two least favorite topics, money and dying, right? Nobody wants to talk about it. But the reality is that we're part of a church community that asks people to fully embrace the fullness of life with God, which includes sort of not just how we live our life every day, but thinking about how our lives impact the world beyond ourselves. And so we're really privileged to have Scott Schneider and a great team of people working with him to be asking us really pertinent questions about what is the legacy that we are leaving? How have we benefited from the historic saints of this church over many generations who have given generously through their lives and leaving a legacy behind them to continue the work that we do today? And without those gifts of the past, we wouldn't be able to do the amazing work that we do every week when people are out in our community working and visiting with people who are sick or ill, volunteering in local schools, feeding our hungry neighbors, clothing and sheltering our hungry neighbors. And so we benefit from that. And we're at the precipice today of a new era where we hope to continue to do those things. And so we invite you now into a time of conversation with our planned giving team about what they envision and how we each might consider that our legacy leaves behind in the rest of our lives and our lifetime beyond the future of First Church and the movement and mission that we have so proudly carried on in the time we've been given. So I'm going to hand things over to Scott here. Thank you, Scott, and thank you to the whole planned giving team. I'm going to ask you to please welcome them.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you everyone for coming today to learn a little bit about planned giving and specifically planned giving related to First Church. So my name is Scott Schneider, as Andy said. I want to introduce the other folks of the planned giving team. So George Norman, Dan Martin, Mark Briggs, and Dan Beagle. David Taylor has also been an integral part of our group. He's traveling this week and was unable to be here. So first, we are generally not financial advisors, right? And no one is providing any financial advice in our talk today. The material we're presenting is for information, and you should consult with professional advisors before doing any planned gifts. So, as Andy said, the purpose of creating the planned giving team was just to put more energy into publicizing planned giving for First Church, right? So it's important to note that this isn't sort of a start of a campaign like we have an annual stewardship campaign or, for specific initiatives, the Love for Children campaign. Planned giving is an ongoing part of ensuring the legacy of First Church. And First Church has received many planned gifts over its history, and we benefit today from the generosity of those who came before us. So, what is a planned gift? Generally, it's a gift from a source other than regular income. And note that the church may not receive the proceeds of the gift until the donor's death. A planned gift can be integrated into your financial and estate planning. And we'll talk about different types of planned gifts over the course of today's discussion. Some planned gifts are straightforward and others are more complex. But making a planned gift to First Church is an opportunity to help ensure that First Church can continue its mission into the future.
Thank you, Scott. Proverbs 13, verse 22 says, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous." We're going to have a meeting tomorrow night, and I'm going to proclaim how blessed we are to have a net worth, not including this amazing campus, including this wonderful chapel that we're in, somewhere in the order of $6 million. So we stand today on the shoulders of legends, the shoulders of financial giants. But they were just regular folk. Just like you, just like me, people who loved God, loved their church, and wanted to see their church prosper for generations and centuries yet to come. So I went back into some of my records, and believe it or not, I've been on the church's executive and personnel committee. I'm now starting my 11th year. So I speak from experience that developing the structured discussions on encouraging growth of the long-term asset base of First Church has been a goal for each one of those 11 years. And now it's becoming a reality thanks to Scott and his team. Also, believe it or not, church leaders are very sensitive that we ask for monetary support a lot. A wise man once said, "Never apologize for asking for money for a worthy cause like First Church." And so just to be sure that we don't owe any royalties for using this phrase, I went back and fact-checked it and found it really attributed to perhaps an even wiser man and certainly a much richer man, and that's John D. Rockefeller. Never think you need to apologize for asking someone to give to a worthy cause any more than as though you were giving him or her an opportunity to participate in a high-grade investment. The duty of giving is as much his or hers as is the duty of asking yours. So yes, we realize that this high-grade investment that we call First Church needs the investment of time and talent and, yes, treasure in a number of ways. Sometimes the need or ask is urgent or short-term. There's a special offering for one great hour of sharing, or the youth are going on their mission trip. Did you get your card? The youth are going on their mission trip. The church school mission project for St. Vincent de Paul is wrapping up, or Chris George from Iris Calls. And there are a dozen families arriving from Afghanistan, and he knows the people at First Church can turn mission impossible into mission done. And every year, there's the faithful drumbeat of annual stewardship. Again, tomorrow night, I will announce that 280 families have committed over $890,000 in this year's stewardship and budgeting cycle. And that's still not enough to take on the music, the mission, the ministry, and the mutual support that we all covenant to undertake together. And that's where investment income comes in to supplement. Your church leaders might have two separate but different dreams. What if we didn't have to tap our investments each year? Or what if our endowments grew to such a level that our missions had to grow to match it? There's also long-range goals that we take on. In 2001, it was buying and outfitting the Schoenstein organ, not to mention Big Blue, the long-forgotten church van. In 2015, it was constructing this beautiful Micah chapel. And in 2022, it was funding our Micah Children's Initiative. But today's time frame, our time perspective is even longer. It's in perpetuity, from the Latin perpetuus, which is continual or uninterrupted, or I'm trying to get this word pronounced, perpetuitatem. Andrew, is your Latin any better than mine?
No, it's actually worse.
Perpetuitatem, uninterrupted duration or continuity. Think decades, scores, generations, centuries, if not millennia or eons. And so we're asking you to look beyond the here and now, beyond 2024, beyond perhaps David's service to this church, beyond Kate's, even beyond Andrew's. Our congregation is still thriving, our ministries are still flourishing, and your life is still impacting First Church members. The French theologian Hyacinthe Loyson delivered a sermon in Paris in 1866. I believe David was actually there to hear it and provided the following translation. "These trees which he plants, and under whose shade he shall never sit, he loves them for themselves and for the sake of his children and his children's children, who are here to sit beneath the shadow of their spreading boughs." Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure I have the right direction here. It's quicker. So I had the easiest slide in the entire deck. Maybe that's why Scott gave me that slide. And I'm going to quote a high school football coach, and not as qualified as some of the quotes that Dan just had, but he used to tell us intent plus action equals outcome. Intent plus action equals outcome. And what I like about that phrase is that we're really, with plain giving, just trying to follow through on your intentions. It's really what it is. The action, the plain gift, creates the outcome, which is a legacy. Coach Fischetti wouldn't have, my high school coach probably wouldn't know that I'd be repeating that to this congregation here today. But I thought that was a fantastic phrase. In terms of types of plain gifts, obviously cash is one particular type of plain gift. Appreciated assets, stocks, bonds, real estate, all types of plain gifts that can be part of the legacy. I think it's great that we're doing this Micah moment here in the Micah Chapel. So this is a perfect example of a legacy. This congregation literally lifted this building off its foundation, redid it, and we just saw little Maurice this morning being baptized. Wasn't even born when this legacy was created. So I think that it's fantastic we're able to do things like that. Maybe he'll preach at some point. Maybe he'll give a plain giving presentation. Maybe it's through AI going forward. But I think it's fantastic that this congregation is coming together. That we're trying to pay it forward for the next generation of leaders and children, and we're getting to enjoy things that we've already done with plain gifts that we've had in place. So with that, I'll turn it over. Talk more about the action part of it, I guess, with George.
So you can see here, and there will be no laughing. You can see here kind of a list of some of the different types of plain gifts. So we'll go through, I'll go through a couple of these, and then when they get to the complicated ones, and Mark will explain some of those a little bit more. So perhaps, I think the most basic, or the thing we probably think about most when we think of a plain giving, whether you get things in the mail from other organizations, is what you might do in a will or perhaps a trust. I will make a semi-public service announcement that please, if you don't have a will, whether you're going to put First Church in it or not, please have a will or trust for something that greatly simplifies everything for people after that. So. But clearly in that you have a couple different options. You can give a certain, request a certain amount of dollar value to First Church, or if you're like, well, I'm living off of some of my assets, I don't know how much I have left, I want to make sure my children or whomever have it. You can certainly do it by percentage and just kind of say, hey, whatever's left, this is how I kind of like to divide it up, and also. See an attorney to get yourself a will or trust if you haven't done that, and you can add First Church in there. So that's one option, probably the simplest, and again, hopefully everybody should have a will. The other option that I'll be honest, probably is also pretty easy. You've already filled out the paperwork, most likely, whether you prefer Church or not. And might be one that you don't think about too much is if you've got some kind of retirement account, IRA, or life insurance, or annuity, you have to have a primary beneficiary and then contingent beneficiary, likely your own business. Most people, of course, are likely to choose their spouse or whatever for the primary beneficiary. But then, for your contingent, you may choose children if you have them. And again, you can divide that up and just say, hey, First Church could be a contingent beneficiary. The advantage of that is that that money is going to pass through effectively tax-free to First Church. It's not going to go into I don't believe it goes into your state. That's kind of an advantage of that. So it is a relatively easy and effective way if part of what you want want to do is to leave a legacy, this is something that I would, encourage you to consider. Any questions or anything on this?
So I'm going to talk about 3 types of specific plan giving vehicles that you can, everyone's available to everyone. So one is called QCD, Qualified Charitable Distribution. So this is a nice, effective, simple way to give money to the church. It's basically, you have to be 70 and a half in order to utilize a QCD. You can give up to $100,000 a year. It satisfies your required minimum distribution. So again, under new laws, at age 73, you have to start taking money out of your retirement accounts. And so if you gave some to the church, you wouldn't pay tax on that money. It would help satisfy your required distribution. Another type of planning vehicle is called a donor advised fund. So again, these are typically established with custodians like Schwab and Fidelity, where you can set up this donor advised fund. You can donate it with, again, appreciated securities, cash, other types of investments. The benefit of these donor advised funds is you can make a large contribution in 1 year. You can take the tax deduction in the year that you make this contribution, and then you have as much time as you want to kind of divvy out that money, to wherever you want it to be divvied up to. And also, while it's sitting in there, if you wanted to invest it, you can invest it and have that money grow. So again, we typically see that, if we're going to use a donor advised fund and donate to it, you normally want it to be a fairly large, decently large type of contribution. Because again, under kind of current tax law, if you're married filing jointly, you have to exceed $30,000 of what's called itemized deductions in order to receive any benefit. So again, if you were the type where you might give First Church a few $1,000s a year, chances are you would receive no tax benefit. But if you want to do that kind of all in one shot, get a tax benefit, then you can divvy it out to the church over that period of time and get a tax break and get the benefit of what you're trying to achieve by your giving. And the last vehicle is probably the most complicated vehicle, but it has some unique features, and it's called a charitable remainder trust. And again, this you would want to work with an attorney. They would set up a trust for you, and it's again, you can donate it with cash and appreciated securities. You can defer the gains on the taxes. The unique part about these CRTs is it provides an income stream to you, and then the church would receive the remaining assets upon your death. So a little diagram of kind of how it works is you're the donor. You would meet with a estate planning attorney, set up this charitable trust, then you would fund it with your cash or appreciated securities. And then once the trust is funded, there's different language in there that kind of dictate what kind of income stream that you would receive from this trust. So you receive it during your entire lifetime and your spouse's lifetime. And then once you both pass away, then whatever's remaining in the trust, the remainder portion, then would go to the church. So again, it's a little bit complicated, but it has that benefit of getting an income stream off that money, while you're still living, and a tax deduction on top of it. So it's definitely something you might want to consider. And I think that's all we have.
Yeah, so I want to thank everyone for walking through this and sort of just open the floor if people have any questions, and I'll try and facilitate that.
Without giving advice, which I know you can't do, can you talk a little bit more about inherited IRAs? I understand there's a tax law within the last year or two that says you have to withdraw all those funds within 10 years. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Yeah. So the Secure Act, that was just passed, says if you pass away, I think it's after 2020, that you do have to it all has to be dispersed by December 31st of the 10th year after you inherit it. So it does
10th year
have to be
after I inherit.
after you, yep, after
Okay,
you-
not, and so that law went into effect in 2020?
Yeah, for people that passed away, I believe in 2020 and later, that's when it, otherwise, it used to, in the past, you could take it over your lifetime, but if someone passed away in 2020 or later, you have to take the whole thing out within 10 years. And if they were taking, the person that you inherited from, if they were taking their required distribution, you're required to continue taking the required distribution over your life expectancy, and then but over a 10-year period of time, it has to be all dispersed.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah, she died in 2019, not
And
20,
then you
so,
can probably take it over your life expectancy.
okay. That's what I needed, some clarification on.
Do you have written materials that you could furnish us with?
Sure, so there's a one-page flyer like this that we have at the back, and we also, in the mailing, there was a brochure that was included, there's more copies back there, and on there's like a tear-off page, so there's certain things that you want particular information about, or want to talk to somebody more individually, we can set that up. Other questions?
In the donor advised fund, if you could maybe go back to that slide a couple. So you make a large donation into this fund at one time. Ahead of time, do you have to allocate a certain amount to each charity that you think you might want to give to? If it was $100,000, you said, oh, I'm going to give 20 to First Church and 20 to American Cancer Society or whatever, or you just make the 100 and then dish it out at whatever convenient time that you.
Yeah, so basically you're putting $100,000 into this account that you've just established. Once it's established, you can do whatever you want to do with that money. So you can parse it over whatever period of time. You can set it up on automatic, quarterly distributions. There's no time frame for when it has to be distributed. You can add a beneficiary to it, the church. So if you pass away and there's still money in that account, it has like a remainder beneficiary to it. And you can even name like a successor owner. Like we've seen it with a few of our clients where they've named their kids a success. They put in a lot of money, have their kids be the successor owners. So the idea is once they pass away, the kids will take over, divvying out this money and keeping this charitable effort still going. So it's pretty flexible vehicle once you put the money in.
But in the meantime, you got the benefit of the $100,000 gift in year one,
Yep.
if you will.
Yep, you get to deduct all in year one.
And then the growth is tax-free.
Yeah, but remember, it's not really your money. Once you put it in the charitable fund, you have the right to distribute the money. It's all you have. It's not your money anymore, which is why you get the tax deduction, right?
Right, but it's still generating
Yeah, you can invest it, right, so if it grows and doubles, you can give away more money,
You're
absolutely.
just giving
So-
away the principal at the end of the day.
Yeah, so,
All of it.
You're giving away all the stuff.
so normally we look at the time frame. If it's a smaller amount for our clients and it's not gonna be there that long, we'll just leave it in a money market. But for, like, we're talking about a large donation where this family wants their kids to take it over, we're obviously gonna try to grow that money. And our hope is that, they'll just give away the investment income, and maybe the principal will just continue to grow, continue to be there for the kids.
Right, but correct me if I'm wrong, but whatever's in the fund gets donated out, right? So if it accumulates investment income, that income is also,
It stays in the
it stays in the account, it's donated.
Right, that's the only way to be donated.
You don't have to do it like as an individual. I'll just tell you, my wife and I have one that's through the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving, so effectively we have a donor advised fund set up that way, so that, but it's right, you put the money in and the only thing you have left is control over where it goes.
Right.
It's not my money anymore. I can't suddenly decide I need that money to live off. It's gone. It is the charity.
Other questions?
Do we know, Scott, or other churches around the area doing stuff like this already?
There are definitely other churches that are doing things like this. I mean, if we we did some website surfing to look at other materials, right, as we were generating ours, and we're trying to think off the top of my head ones that, so there's like a Silent Hill Congregational in Hartford, I know we looked at that, I think there was a church in Windsor, I can't remember all the ones we looked at, but it's not, you know, I don't think we're pioneering anything here.
If you give money to the church, can you dictate how the church uses the money? Or once you've given it to the church, it's up to the church?
Well,
You could-
the bylaws provide for unrestricted gifts, or we have certain gifts that have been made that have had restrictions on them. Certainly if someone were to ask us before the gift is made, we'd love to have it with as few restrictions as possible. But nonetheless, people do make gifts that are restricted, and we would presumably accept those and accept the restrictions. And including some of those restrictions are that you can't touch the principal, or you can touch the principal, and so that's kind of described in the bylaws of unrestricted gifts versus restricted, and perpetual gifts versus designated gifts, et cetera, et cetera. But certainly our preference, of speaking for the Board of Trustees, would be unrestricted gifts that then go into the general endowment and benefit the church in a lot of ways.
Yeah, sometimes people make the donations and they'll say, I want this to be set up for mission work, or I want this to be set up for music. So that it's just, those funds are there, that if the music board or the music committee, they need, now there needs to be major renovations to the organ or something like that, there's a pot of money that they can do that.
But not a squash court. David did.
Never get that past the trustees.
Any other questions? Alright, well, terrific, thank you guys very much for attending to sort of learn more. Really big thank you to everybody else on the team who helped put all this together and did sort of really a lot of heavy lifting here. And like I mentioned, there's a little flyer out on the table on the left as you walk out, and the brochures out there as well. And so if you want more information, there's a pretty simple way to request that. Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, committee.